Brian, any final thoughts from you?
No, not really. Only the last 2 hours have been great. It's been, apart from lockdown, we used to have such a social scene doing sessions. At the height of sessions, it was hard work, but you were good if you were good at your job, it was a breeze, and they were the happiest days of my life. That it was a wonderful.
Likewise, yeah.
The 60s.
There's a lot of respect flying around for each other, wasn't there, Brian?
Oh yes.
Which seems to have gone out the window a little bit now. I think
I must just say something for somebody who was listening to you guys, because I'm a couple of years younger than most.
Thank you very much. We've had our jabs though. Yeah.
I have to say that just for me to even know you guys, all of you, is an absolute privilege. I can't tell you. It's Brian. I always used to introduce Brian to my mates as this is my hero. But you guys are you were heroes to.
Well,
when you were living in Yorkshire as I was, and listening to, Riding the Wind.
Oh God.
One of yours. What a beautiful title that is, Riding the Wind.
Yeah.
And
it's supposed to have been this full up the Telstar. Never happened, did it?
No, it's great. Well, it has happened because Matt Bellamy, George's son, has copped it for one of music tunes.
He has, yeah. He loves it.
Yeah.
Matt
well, no, seriously. I mean, I was like 14, 15, getting into pop music.
Yeah.
And the guys on the records, and I mean, you, of course, Clem, you weren't credited, and Mo wasn't. We didn't know who you were, but Brian, of course, was.
He's a star. This is true.
This is true. Not a con, but when we came into the business, our motivation was to be the best. We wanted to be the best. We practiced. I practiced 4 hours every day on a pad. I still practice if I've got to go out and play somewhere. But the motivation was playing good. Today's motivation, a lot of it, is they want to be rich and famous now. That's what
Fame is the key word, isn't it? I said to someone recently, the definition of fame is that you can't go to Waitrose anymore.
That's Well, I mean, with Brian, because Brian, we toured together. He was with Marty Wilde, and I was with Billy Fury. And Brian, always remember, he used to sit in the back of the coach, learning how to be a proper musician, while we were all there smoking, drinking, farting about.
And where's it got him?
When I was
nowhere.
With John Barry, and John knew I was interested. He said, take a postal course. And John took a postal course from
Berkeley
School, and he said, take a postal course. And I got in with Berkeley School of Music.
That's it, yeah.
And I did that. And funnily enough, I went back to Colorado to do an album with somebody, an artist of Deke Arnold. And I actually went to Berkeley and saw the place. And
fantastic, yeah. But we used to mess about, like with Dickie Pride hanging out the coach, asking some lady who was walking along with a pram, would you like another one? And all that.
Bruce Welch's famous one, looking out of a car at people, he'd look out the coach or his Rolls Royce and he'd wind the window down. If there was some workmen in a hole, he said, "You're just too fucking lazy to learn 3 chords."
Brilliant. Well, on that note,
okay.
Thank you. It's just been fantastic. Thank
No
you.
problem, Nick.
real fun. Good.
Yeah, thank you to Brian for having the most impressive backdrop of everybody.
Backdrop.
Yes.
That's not real. That's not real. That's a virtual backdrop.
It's a green screen.
Yeah. It's not real.
Great. It's been an absolute pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you so much. I could swear with a bit of alcohol. When we started doing these things, we used to do them in a pub, and obviously they went on started at 2 p.m, and we'd crawl out of there about 8 o'clock at night. And it's not quite the same on Zoom, but it's just good fun. And if any of you, if you'd like to come back anytime, doesn't have to be a Friday afternoon, but if you want to get a bunch of mates together.
Somebody I would recommend, and I know 2 or 3 people here will agree with me. You should try and I could easily get him for you. Noddy Holder. You got to get. Noddy has the Slade stories almost outstrip every other story.
I can imagine.
Can we picture you in as the host then, Ed, for that?
Well, Nod would be great to have on. He's
I'd love
so
you to host it. This has been, for me, the most interesting 2 hours for a long
really. That's great.
Fantastic.
You saying it's more interesting than the one we did last week?
All of us, we have a very kind of the same philosophy about everything, I think.
Yeah.
But
Well, also your paths have obviously crossed on many occasions over the years.
Yeah.
So you kind of know each other's stories, which always helps because you egg each other on, which is makes it work.
Thing you will have noticed is there's not one part of an ego in here at all. We all take we're all self-effacing sort of blokes.
Yeah.
Personally, although I still put a lot of hours into what I'm doing, I'm one of the luckiest blokes in the world. The things I've worked with, the people I've worked with, I just enjoy being with people who love what they do.
Mm.
For me, to be handling Chet Atkins' teeth was the pinnacle of my career.
That's one of the greatest stories I've ever heard. It's just superb.
I love your line, Ed. These have spoken to Elvis. Was that?
That's what I said. That's what I said to Noffer. Because, and also, when you know people for a long time, like all of us, you get into a repartee. You kind of anticipate each other's stuff and the rest of it. I mean, Brian, how long have I known you now, Brian? 25 years, 30 years?
Yeah, and the rest, 40 years, yeah.
Yeah, long time.
Good days.
I met Clem in 71.
Goodness.
Was it really?
Clem and I were the house drummers at the Two Eyes in 1957-58.
Yes.
And in case you don't know, everybody, there is a clip of Brian on YouTube with a snare drum and a hi-hat, I think, maybe a cymbal.
Yeah.
Were you playing with Vince Taylor or somebody?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know the clip I'm talking about?
Two Eyes.
Documentary about the Two Eyes. There's a documentary about the Two Eyes.
Isn't Licorice in that?
Yeah, and Hank is revisiting it. They film Hank going back downstairs. And there's a clip of Brian. It's black and white. It's probably the first clip of you on TV, Brian, because the old boy shows were wiped, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah,
they were.
Well, there's a clip of you. It's only for about 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember. You just had a snare drum,
a
hi-hat, and a ride cymbal.
That's it.
Yeah. That was a drum kit in those days, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, you're right.
That was quite excessive, actually. You didn't need the snare.
It was an Olympic. It was an Olympic snare drum, an Olympic bass drum, 20-inch, and it cost the bass drum was tenner from Lou Davis, and the snare drum was 15 quid.
Did you have a bass drum? Okay, I don't remember.
Yeah,
I watch. It's funny because I watch that clip every night.
Ed, who was your drum hero originally? What made you play drums?
Who, me?
Yes, Conrad.
Ed.
No, it was
Ed.
I know I don't know whether you're being facetious, Mo, but it was Brian.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I wasn't sure. Yeah.
It was Brian. Well, I'll tell you what happened. It was the drum teacher I went to in Leeds. The first drummer I ever saw play, which wanted me to gave me the impetus to want to play. I was about 14 years old. My mum and dad had bought me one rock and roll record, which was Elvis's Gold Records Volume 1. And the opening track on that is Hound Dog, which has got that DJ playing that thing. And I was watching, this was in the early 60s, and the BBC, we only had BBC One. We had one station.
One, that was it.
On Sunday afternoons, they used to show old black and white movies, like Busby Berkeley kind of movies.
Yeah.
And there was a film on called George White's Scandals.
Yeah.
With Gene Krupa.
Yeah.
And Gene did this thing where he came down a flight of stairs, and on each stair was a starlet holding some kind of percussive instrument, like a triangle or a tambourine or something. And he came rattling down the stairs, landed on his big white Slingerland kit, thrashed for 2 minutes, and I was looking at this going, wow, yes. And I
One day I'm going to sit on a stairway with a triangle.
Sorry?
One day I'm going to sit on a stairway with a triangle.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether it was the starlets or the drum kit that attracted me, but I couldn't get my dad to get me a starlet, so I got him to. We went into Leeds, which was the local town.
Yeah.
Went into a shop called Kitchens, and the when you that store, you turn left into guitars, right into woodwinds, and always in music shops. The drum department was in the basement.
Yes, that's it, yeah.
You could hear this kind of banging coming up the stairwell. And many, many years later, I found out that Mr. Knopfler had gone to the same shop and turned left at the same time as me. And I had gone downstairs. And I met a guy called Alex Sidebottom. I have a lot of people in my life with Dickensian names. And he was running the drum department. He sold my dad a snare drum, a stand, a pair of sticks, and a pair of brushes for £6, 10 shillings, old money. I've still got the receipt somewhere.
Yeah.
And when we got upstairs, he was a good salesman, was Alec, because he said, we give lessons. And of course, I thought you just hit them, but you don't. And we do six 1-hour lessons for 30 shillings, old money. And that was held in Kitchen's record shop in the parallel street.
Yeah, I remember Kitchen's,
Tuesday night. And I used to go, I went for 4 years. And when we were still in the shop, he sold my dad the Buddy Rich, Henry Adler Snare Drum Rudiments book.
Yeah, we got that, haven't we?
30 bob.
Yeah.
Which, Brian, and now, interesting thing for this is an interesting little detail. Brian, some years ago, sent me a photograph of his copy of that tutor. Do you remember, Brian?
Yeah.
And do you remember what you'd done? You'd put a brown paper
Oh, that's right.
cover on it.
That's right. Margaret did.
And you'd written it.
Cover all my exercise books.
Yeah.
With
I had done exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So when his photograph arrived of this Buddy Rich drum tutor with a brown wrapping, it was exactly the same. And I had no idea who Buddy Rich was, and not actually probably for a couple of years.
No, it was
And I remember as I say, in June '61, I went to see we formed a beat group at school, as you did. Basically covered all of your stuff. I mean, everything, Apache, everything, even bloody Mustang we covered. And then we started playing little gigs in schools and village halls and colleges, just like everybody else did. And then when that was when Tony Meehan was still in the group, and then Brian joined in '61, and I saw him at Leeds Grand Theatre, and he was on a variety bill. And Brian's just got up, but he'll remember this. There was a guy on the bill.
There's the book.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And there was a guy on what was that act on the bill with the
Did you see that?
There was a guy with white doves, but Brian says that they were pigeons that had been painted white. They used to get loose and shit all over his cymbals.
Oh, Ed, here. This is got.
Oh, Ralph Pace.
Yeah, but that's Shelley Mann signed it for me. I was at Liverpool Empire and I met Shelley Mann. So will you sign my brown covered book? And he did.
You mentioned
Brian and I, our friendship was really started around the drumming thing. I mean, it's expanded way beyond that too. In fact, some years ago, we went to an Evadis Zildjian thing at the Hard Rock and got stuck on a table with Ginger Baker.
Yeah.
I haven't touched a drumstick since. It just terrified me.
Nor have I.
He was. But
you mentioned Apache just now. I did some cabaret gigs with Hank Marvin and John Farrar.
Oh yeah.
Used to do half the Marvin Welsh Farrar kind of vocal set. The other half was shadow stuff. And before, when the audience is applauding, there's always someone yelling out the title they want to hear.
Yeah.
And we finally get round to playing Apache. And as the applause is going, it's fading away. There's some guy down the front yelling, Apache! Apache! No idea, we've just played it.
I didn't realise until recently that the bum 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 at the beginning is Cliff.
Yes,
I didn't realise that. I thought that was played on a bass drum with a. Oh,
It does it rather well.
I think it's a bit of both, Ed. I think it's a bit of both.
was it?
I think they just gave him a Chinese drum to hit so to get a bit of press out of it.
Yeah. Everything was so manipulative back then.